The growing popularity of social media has, without question, brought about a pragmatic shift in the way advertisers and marketers seek to promote their goods and services, and of course affect the purchasing decision of their customers and targets. Social media marketing has over the years aided more sales, flourish businesses, help companies to easily reach their target customers at a faster pace, build a long-term relationship with customers, provide an opportunity to both consumers and companies to communicate effectively, and help, of course, companies to spread out their businesses for marketing campaigns. However, the suspension of Twitter by the federal government, a leading microblogging platform, has begun to take its toll on Nigeria's fragile economy, leading to the loss of billions of naira, by extension affecting advertising revenues, as a chunk of media spend happens on Twitter, causing media agencies and digital agencies, of course, to lose revenue. With digital media gradually taking over the traditional media space, the big question now is, what will be the impact of Twitter on Nigeria's advertising industry? Well, of course, to provide solutions, answers to all of this and all that has to do with this topic, I have the president of the Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria, who doubles as the chief executive officer of Extreme Media, Mr. Steve Babaiku. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon to you.
It's great to see you on this platform.
I'm so delighted to be here. Thank
you. I read through your submission, and I want to pick this out. A cure for a severe headache just can't be the severance of the head. So this has happened. Yeah. First, what is your direct reaction to that move? How did it come to you when you heard that?
A little surprising, I must confess, because you see, that direct quote was my tweet. Immediately, I heard that the government was planning to put up a ban on Twitter in Nigeria. You know, because you have a severe headache. The cure for it cannot be chopping off the head. You know what I mean? So, I think there could have been several ways to look at this and solve the same problem in other much more gentler way that will not create the ripple effect of challenges that we're experiencing as a result of the ban right now.
Because I wonder, for advertisers, influencers, and some deals that are already reached even before now, sure. How will that affect?
See, if you look at it, it's I think sometimes you make a knee-jerk reaction to a problem, okay, and you don't sort of look at the bigger picture of some of the challenges that your reaction might trigger. You know, because if you look at it, this is a country that's just coming out of the pandemic. We went into our second recession in 5 years in 2020. You saw how the economy contracted especially in the last quarter of 2020. And now, if you say you are going to ban something like Twitter, where people are, it's the new marketplace for especially the young generation. You just finished banning cryptocurrency, and you're banning Twitter, and then if you look at the unemployment rate among young people, it's maybe as high as 40-45%, depending on which state you're looking at in the federation. Now, the overall interest of the government is that we want to secure peace, right? We want the country to be peaceful. But if more people go out of work and go into the labor market, for those people who are going into the unemployment market, are ready to recruit for people who want to recruit people into crime. So you cannot, there's no way any positive solution can come out of this ban. And it's also important to add that Nigeria is not the only country that is having to deal with this new reality that is social media.
That's true.
There are two ways to deal with this thing, and there's a middle ground between those two ways. There's the very extreme way, which is what China is probably doing right now. Autocratic, nobody can ask the government anything. They banned Twitter outrightly. They couldn't even come in, all right? And then there's the India model. As at June 7th, maybe a few days after the government banned Twitter in Nigeria, Twitter sought an injunction in court. Use that injunction to discuss with Twitter. There's a couple of people. There's this hip-hop artist called Elfresh the Lion, and then there's this singer-songwriter called Jazzy B. Very, very vocal critic of the Modi government. And what did they do? They sought this court injunction and used the court injunction to discuss with Twitter, and Twitter actually did a banning of those accounts, about those 2 accounts and 2 other accounts, so that whatever they tweet cannot be seen in India, because those accounts were very critical of the government's agricultural policy, and the government just couldn't take it anymore. So they went through the legal channel to challenge Twitter, and Twitter had to do something. So we can actually find a middle ground where we have conversation with Twitter. If there are specific accounts that you think are doing something that you think is really, really, really anti-Nigeria, you can have those conversations with Twitter. Twitter, they have their rules. They will weigh your submission versus their own rule and take a decision. But this outright ban, you've now joined the people who are innocent, who are just transacting normal business and trying to eke out a living on digital media. And you've joined them with the guys who the government probably have issues with. And now people are bleeding revenue. And you're throwing more people into poverty. And don't forget that this is a country where almost about 80 million Nigerians went into poverty as at last in 2020. So we're just compounding the problem. And I think I'd like to use this opportunity on behalf of our members who still do business on Twitter, on behalf of the ordinary Nigerians who do business on Twitter, on behalf of digital agencies who almost exclusively ply their trade on digital media, for the government to relook this decision and find an amicable way of settling it.
When we talk business, we always like to mention figures, but I think it's going to be very difficult for us to get an approximate level of loss that we must have experienced in the past, like 2 weeks now. But in contribution to GDP and all of that, how do you see this affecting?
It is massive, and I'll tell you why. Because let's look at the bigger picture. Let's look at the macro economy. Okay, last 2 years, Nigerian startups, they raised almost about $498 million in foreign direct investments that they raised. Now, most of this money came in maybe into that fintech space, all right? Most of these things are digital businesses. You see what all of these young guys are doing, how the valuations of their companies are going through the roof. That's because people feel at the time they were bringing in this money that this country is conducive for investment. Once government starts to do this kind of knee-jerk reaction to a situation, there's going to be capital flight. All this money will be diverted. You can see already, Twitter had the choice to situate their headquarters in Africa somewhere. They took it to Ghana. Let me tell you, the amount of Nigerians on Twitter, which is estimated to be close to about 40 million people, is more than the entire Ghana as a country.
I tell you.
So ideally, it should be here, right? But so those are the kind of things we will be seeing, where people who ordinarily will want to invest here will take their business to Egypt, South Africa, or Indonesia that are already beating Nigeria in terms of FDI numbers as it stands today.
Because that was my follow. I wanted to even say, for investors, this sends a wrong signal.
Definitely.
Because, of course, when you see things like this and, policy somersaults and all of a sudden this is happening, no conversations with stakeholders and all of that. Yeah. And really, let me just, talking about conversation with stakeholders, how well are you pushing also as an association, of course, because I know there will be pressure from all angles.
Of course.
How well are you pushing to be able to let government realize? I spoke to someone, an IT person, and he said before this decision was taken, they ought to have brought all of the players into, even if it were to be just a Zoom meeting, and to understand the implication of this. How well is government listening to you at this point?
Well, to be honest, our role as people who genuinely love this country, I'm not even talking as a partisan person. I really don't care who is in charge of this country. All we want is for this country to work. And that's our role as citizens, right? So what we're doing now is just speaking truth to power so that the government will understand. There are so millions and millions of us who really love this country, and all we just want to see is that for the government to do the best, to make the best policies and follow up with those laws. So we continue to speak using this kind of medium to tell the government that it's in our best interest to find a much more amicable way to resolve these things, so that Nigerians who earn their living off Twitter can continue to do so.
Some will also say maybe the government wants to make money. Maybe the government is looking for ways to tax all of these platforms and make more money. I don't know. Maybe that's also something.
If you want to do that, there's a way. It's within the prerogative of government to tax anybody. You know what I mean. But if you want to do certain things, there are much more interesting and nicer ways to do those things. It reminds me of a story that my dad used to say in my town in Kaba in Kogi State. There was this man that people wanted to marry the daughter of a wealthy man, and and they said, oh, they did their research on the guy who wanted to marry. And the report came back that, look, don't give your daughter to this man because he curses a lot. Anybody does every little thing, he curses anybody and he will swear at the person. And they asked the guy, okay, this is the research we did on you and this is the result. They say you curse at people, and the person responded that whoever said that will die, will not live long. Now Twitter is saying we can't build our headquarters here because we don't trust the policy
of government. And
the next few days, the next days after, you're banning Twitter. We are playing into the hands of the people who are detractors of this country. Nigeria is probably one of the most maligned nations in the world. We can't even help ourselves if we are now playing to some of those narratives that don't even favor this country. So I think it is about time we want to appeal to the government, take a second look at this decision, and for the interest of the young Nigerians who are struggling, you can't ban crypto.
Honestly.
You ban cryptocurrency, people are still reeling from that shock. You ban Twitter, then what's next? And you see, there's so much unemployment, especially within that youth bracket, that if there's going to be any kind of upheaval in this country, those are the people who are energetic enough to go do it. But if people are busy, to be honest, they don't even remember that there's a government in power. And if people are busy and they are making money, the Nigerians will resilient, will continue with our lives. So I think it's in the interest of the bigger agenda of the government, which is to create more enabling country for the population, for them to revisit this and rescind that decision.
Let's quickly look at the ICT space in its entirety, because even at the getting out of recession, the ICT did very well in making us grow and let us out of this recession. And also jobs, a lot of jobs, I totally agree with you, are being created one way or the other. This would have even been enough reason for government to think twice about this.
Absolutely. If you look at the 2020, how we did in the bigger picture of our economy last year, there are very few of those segments that grew. And the ICT and the finance segment were those two. The ICT grew by about 12.9%, and I think finance, if I'm not mistaken, about 9.4%, according to the NBS. Statistics. So if you look at all of this thing, does it not make sense for the government to harness all of those growth we came over with in a very difficult year like 2020, to carry that forward into 2021 and make sure that, and what's making those, if you look at it, what made those segments grow? What grew those segments? It's the digital space.
Yes.
It's that digital space, it's that digital economy that is beginning to bubble under. If we're not careful, we're going to lose that very choice space that we already occupy. We're going to lose it to Rwanda. There's no shortage of places in Africa that are also competing and fighting for attention of foreign investors. So the thing to do is to make sure that we are consistent with our policy, less of those knee-jerk reactions that is going to throw everything out with the baby out with the bathwater. I think it's a second chance definitely is called for.
I'm worried. At this time where you're the president of AAAN, a lot of prospects, a lot of plans. We started with COVID. We're almost out of COVID. Take us through how it's been, what you've been doing all the while. I know it's been a busy time.
It's been challenging, and that's why we speak up for our members to say, look, our members are facing a very difficult time. If you ask the government, I'm telling you honestly, I'm sure in their hearts of hearts, they really mean well by saying we want to create jobs. But if you're serious about creating jobs, you can't be on one hand wanting to create jobs, on another hand, you're banning the places that allow people to be able to grow their businesses and create jobs. Now, let me tell you what's probably going to happen. If this ban continues indefinitely as the government is insisting, advertising agencies may have to cut jobs, digital agencies may have to cut jobs. Now, those poor, innocent young people that will have to be thrown into the labor market once again, where do you want them to go? Then you have people who are criminals, who are recruiting, who are looking for able hands or idle hands to recruit. Then that's the supply chain for that side of our dark world. So it's a very complicated situation, and that's why, again, I'll use this opportunity of me being here to again call on the government to quickly look at this thing and take a second look and take a different decision.
So I can imagine how activities of AAAN, you know, I was trying to even, you know, to tell us some little bit of what's been playing out. Yes, Twitter ban is key, I know. Yes, yes. But all the same, what other things have been happening along the association?
We're happy. We've been talking to the Honorable Minister for Information, who has direct supervision over industry. Yeah. And he's been magnanimous in trying to engage with the industry. We had a meeting with him last year, I think March 4th last year. I think we're scheduling for another meeting again, just to make sure that we continue to have those conversations that will move our industry forward and move the overall economy forward. The most burning issue right now is the APCON law review that's currently with the National Assembly. I think it just passed public reading now, public hearing. And AAAN is continuing to push that all the reforms required to make our industry stronger is done. And I think we have the Honorable Minister's buy-in on that, and that's what we're working on.
All right, so wrapping up, because it's really been interesting, you know, getting to understand how this will affect, because I remember all of the influencers, even for the politicians, they use this platform so very well to pass information. Are you getting messages from people telling you how this is also affecting them one way or the other?
If you look at it, again, like I said, it's like chopping your head off because you have a bad headache, right? Now, government has said no Twitter, ban on it. Nigerians in droves are downloading VPN.
VPN, that's another angle to it.
Which is actually very dangerous for most of our people. A lot of people might not be able to pay for real VPN. They are going to download free VPN. And through those free VPN, a lot of people are going to lose their money because identity theft is going to happen. People's accounts are going to be hacked. People are going to lose money. The economy is going to bleed in the long run. There's no how you slice and dice this, that this is a very good solution to the problem that the government is trying to tackle.
Moving on in 2021, what are your prospects for the industries? What are you seeing? What more goodies do you see? Despite all of the challenges, I think there should still be light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I hope the light at the tunnel is not the light of a coming train, because that's very scary. I'm hoping that we can get the security challenges makes it difficult to do business, to transact business. There are clients who want to do activation in different parts of the country, but if the country is not at peace, how do you transact business? There are people who want to bring investment here who are thinking, well, let's just wait and see if this government is able to take control of security. So most of those things are the challenges we see in 2021. But overall, I'm a very optimistic person. I'm still very optimistic that this country is still one of the best places to do business. And this is in case anybody that's a foreign investor is watching this. Nigeria is a wonderful place to do business. We're having a couple of challenges at the moment, but I believe the spirit of Nigerians is resilient enough for us to overcome this very difficult time we're facing. I'm optimistic that our industry will grow and that more foreign participation will happen going into the future, so that we can have a much more robust advertising industry.
Even as IMF and World Bank says we might be doing better with our growth projections, they are reviewing the figures, and sometimes it gets me scary. You're looking at about 2.5% growth when we are still growing at about 0.5%, or was it on our GDP? It looks too tall, like a tall order for me. I pray that everything works as planned. I must thank you so very much for spending your Monday with us. It's not easy getting the president of AAAN, Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Extreme Media. Thank you very much for making your position on this very important topic. We know our leaders are listening, and of course they should be able to come to a round table and make progress with regards to this issue. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.